So my name is Will Richardson, and right now I consult and speak and write around the uses of social media in education, specifically in teachers' practice, their own learning practice, but also hopefully with some trickle down into classroom pedagogy. I do, and I've been blogging there for about 8 years. I think last year at some point I clicked about 1 million words on my blog, and it's been an amazing place, amazing learning place for me since I started it way back in 2001. Well, yeah, I think, it grows out of my experiences with blogging and the differences in the way that I feel like I approach writing on my blog as opposed to the way I approach writing for other media or other mediums. Um, and basically, it's this idea that one of the reasons that I write now is to begin a conversation, to connect to someone, and to hopefully entice that person in some way to come back to my blog, or to while they're on my blog, to go and comment and to push my thinking, to give me, some more context for whatever it is I'm thinking or writing about, to maybe provide some links to some examples of the things that we're talking about. And it really is one of the goals of my writing. It's not just to communicate. It's not just to kind of articulate whatever it is that I happen to be thinking, but it is this kind of inherent feeling now, this sense that I want the blog post to be the beginning of a conversation. Sometimes when I talk about this with teachers, I say, we've always looked at publishing as kind of the end part of the process, but now when we publish, it really is somewhere in the middle. It's something hopefully that starts some more conversation and allows us then to engage with other people. And then at a higher level, I think it means that through that engagement, through that conversation, we really do begin to connect with those people, and we become a part of their network. They become a part of our network. And so that hopefully in some ways those conversations extend to other ideas, other topics, and show up in different places too, maybe on Twitter, maybe later on in the blog, whatever else. Well, I've always been a big fan of Donald Murray, and I always hear him when I sit down to write. And one of the things that I remember him talking a lot about in his books was really putting yourself in the shoes of the reader, and really trying to understand what your words are producing in terms of emotion, in terms of questions, in terms of the experience that the reader is engaged in while reading whatever it is that you're writing. But now I think that goes a little bit, it takes it one step further. And it's not just what the reader is experiencing as he or she reads, but again, what will the reader do in response to what he or she reads? How will that reader, get into the conversation? Where are entry points? And so I think if you look at my blog, lots of times I'll ask questions at the end. I'll try to be somewhat provocative, but yet, and I don't know how even to describe doing it, but kind of subtly try to leave openings where others can come in and push back a little bit, maybe. So I really just see it as, when I'm writing now, I really just see it as more of an interaction rather than a one-way communication, which, when Murray was writing those books about writing, it really still was a one-way type of thing. I love exposition. It's always been my favorite type of writing. It's what I taught when I was in teaching high school for 18 years. I taught exposition, and I love that genre. But I do think that this is different because of that response, that almost immediate or expected response. And just, the way it plays out is now kind of when I put a blog post up there and it doesn't merit, or it doesn't get a few comments or some conversation going, I almost feel disappointed. I almost feel like I didn't do my job as a blogger, because for some reason that just didn't resonate. It didn't in some way, generate that connection. Yeah, well, it's a great question, and it's not one that I think I have the answer to. I think that we try to put kids in situations where they are conversing through the text. So a place to start might be commenting, to going and understanding that reader experience more fully by reading other people's blogs, finding other people who share an interest or passion, and looking at the things that they're writing about and trying to find entry points in the conversation as a reader. I really do think that for me to fully understand how to write in this fashion, I have to fully understand how to read in this environment as well. And probably without that context, I wouldn't, I don't think I'd be as effective as a blogger. So I think that's probably the first place. I think the second part of it, and I'm not sure these are steps necessarily, but certainly the one big piece of it is that we have to let kids write about the things that they really want to write about. And the way this kind of worked out in my classroom, and this was a long time ago now. This is back in 2002, 2003 with my journalists when I had them all create their own blogs and use their blogs as a place to publish and to have these conversations. I said to them, look, you can blog about whatever it is that you're interested in. I don't care if you want to become the expert on professional wrestling, the expert on skateboarding, the expert on soap operas, whatever it is that you really love and you want to really kind of dive into and investigate, not only from a research standpoint, but from a kind of figuring out how you feel about that stuff standpoint. That was a big piece of it, that they could really run with whatever it was that they loved. And for some kids that was actually a struggle because they'd never been given that license to do that. They didn't really know what that meant. And so for some I had to kind of help them through that. But so I think that's a big piece of it. And then at the end of that process, if there's again, I'm not sure there's a step-by-step process there, but I think that we do encourage them and we do get them to be publishing for potentially large audiences and thinking about ways in which they can engage their readers to comment and to interact as they write their own blog posts. As they write whatever it is that they want to reflect upon or link to or whatever else. And I haven't really talked about that whole link too as being kind of the building block for this in terms of connecting to ideas out there and connecting to other conversations that are out there. There's a complexity in there that I think doesn't exist really in just regular linear text, non-digital text, where linking doesn't work the same way. Certainly, I can pull in citations, I can synthesize a whole bunch of information from different sources, but when you do that digitally in a web environment, the kind of what the link facilitates, I think, is not only an easier kind of contextual understanding of what you're writing about because you can go and see those contexts very easily, but I do think because of the nature of hypertext and because of the nature of the way links work, they are potential connections as well. I say sometimes that if there's, well, and it's true, I think, without links, there are no networks. And in these spaces. And so, without a link back to your blog, you may not find my comment about your blog if I'm writing about you on my blog, if that makes sense. But I think even that sentence kind of suggests the complexity that's involved in making these connections and making them work.